success stories, case studies, how to build an automatic marketing machine for your business. My name is Danny Decker, joined today by Daniel Bowden. Daniel, thanks for being here. We're going to have a fun conversation today about sort of the differences between search-based marketing, which is like Google and Bing and things like that, versus social media marketing, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, things like that. You know, yep. a lot of people, I think, who aren't in the marketing world tend to think of like digital marketing as just one big bucket. Mm-hmm. It's funny because we even, you know, we've observed that like someone, you know, a lot of our clients will ask their clients, how did you hear about us? Mm-hmm. And they'll say Google, when we know for a fact that they came in through Facebook. Right? A lot of people just say Google and they just think Google is the internet. And so there's all this confusion out there about like, what is social? What is search? What's the difference? How do you use them differently? So let's get into that conversation. So maybe in your words, Daniel, like just give the lay of the land here. Like, what are we talking about when we're talking about social media versus search marketing?
Yeah, so we are talking about different ways to put your marketing campaign in front of your audience. And we're talking about different platforms. So Google, Bing, like you've mentioned, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn on the social side. And then we're talking about how people are going to find you or how you are going to find those people. And which one makes more sense for you, or is it worth trying both? Or how are people gonna become a lead that you can hopefully convert into a customer? And
so I think it starts with understanding how people use, let's just use Google, right? When we're talking about search, we're going to talk about Google because 99% of the action happens on Google. Yep. So understanding the difference between how people use Google and how people use Facebook, LinkedIn, like those platforms you mentioned, right? And I would start with this, like nobody just goes to Google to be entertained, right? Mm-hmm. When you go to Google, you are searching for something. Like that is why you use Google, because you are searching for something. Right. Versus most of the time when people are on Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever, they're there to be entertained, you know, catch the, you know, the memes, the videos, see what their friends are up to, all of that.
True.
And so that means, you know, you're reaching people in a very different state of mind if you're reaching them on Google versus Facebook.
Right.
You want to break that down a little bit further?
Yeah. When, like you just said, the mentality that you're capturing them at is different, and that's even true for different social media platforms. I think I was just watching a video about that this morning. Like the same thing isn't necessarily going to work on Google versus Facebook, and then the same thing isn't necessarily going to work on Facebook versus LinkedIn. Like we talk about this with some of our clients. Like we know that we are wanting to target more professional type of clients, and that you would think that would be on LinkedIn, and it is, but they might not necessarily be in that same state of mind that they would be on Facebook or on Instagram, and you might end up capturing them at a better moment whenever they're on that platform.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, is kind of understanding what is their frame of mind when they're using these things. I think I would start really high level and say, if somebody is let's again, we'll use another law firm example. But this works for any business, right? This, you know, use your imagination. This works for your business, I promise. Let's say estate planning. If somebody jumps on Google and they type in estate planning or estate planning lawyer or, you know, lawyer to help me create my will, they are very clearly they have what I would call a high buyer intent. Like they are actively searching for a solution.
Yeah.
Versus if you reach somebody on Facebook, maybe even the same person on Facebook, they are not on Facebook actively searching for an estate planning attorney, right? They may be somebody who needs an estate planning attorney. And so it's really important to sort of understand that difference. And you might think from this conversation, oh, well, then shouldn't I be advertising on Google and not Facebook? Google is great for finding those high buyer intent leads.
Yep.
But there are some significant downsides that come with that too. One of which is every other law firm is thinking the same thing. And so there's a lot of competition on Google for for those search results. And so you end up paying a lot to get that lead. The other problem is your ad is showing up, but so are like 10 other businesses that offer exactly the same thing as you do.
Right.
So you're quickly putting yourself in this conversation of being a commodity where like and there's tons of research on this, the average Google user is going to call 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different businesses all at the same time.
Yep.
And they're basically like, how much does it cost? And they usually end up going with either the only person that answered the phone, right? So small lesson there. You need to make sure you're answering your phones.
True.
But more often, they're just going with the lowest price. Versus when you show your ads on Facebook, there's not usually other ads being shown to those people at that time. So you kind of have that advantage of, you're not surrounding yourself with competition.
Yeah. Yeah, at least not the same type of ad. And all of that just made me think of another thing that separates Facebook from Google or social from Google is the creative. So on Google or any strictly search engine, you're kind of limited to just whatever text you can come up with.
They all look the same.
Name of your business, 20% off, free download, whatever. A little bit about yourself, and that's it, basically. Unless you're doing local service ads or something else. But on Facebook, one of the biggest ways that you can attract someone's attention is by the video or the photo that you use. And so that is really key.
You have a lot of room to differentiate yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's a really good point. I think another like really key difference between the two is that on Google, your targeting is much more limited. Like, let's say, we'll stick with the estate planning example. And let's say, a lot of our clients prefer to work with wealthy clients, high net worth, upper middle class, whatever, people that can really afford to pay a premium for their services.
Yeah.
And so on Facebook, you can do a lot. It's not 100% perfect, but you can do a lot to put your ads in front of people that fit that targeting profile. Versus on Google, your choices are a lot more limited. You can do a little bit of targeting. You can certainly target based on geography and search phrases, like what are people actually targeting. But, on Google, you'll get high buy intent leads, but a lot of them aren't going to be as qualified because, if you're trying to target professionals, the problem is professionals are searching for the same things on Google as everybody else.
Yep.
And it's harder to, weed the folks out that you're not trying to target.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, like you're saying on Google, there's some targeting you can do. You can even, because Google's connected to YouTube, you can even like target based on like what kind of YouTube videos people watch. And that can give you a pretty good idea of what type of person they are. But it's very different than going in Facebook and being like, okay, I want someone in the top 10% of U.S. household income earners in this city, in this radius, in the zip code even, with these sorts of characteristics. Like Facebook, you can just kind of paint out the whole picture in a little more detail.
Yeah.
On Google, there's not as much of that.
Yeah, exactly. So good conversation. We could spend hours talking about this. I think kind of the key takeaways that I hope people get from this is understanding that search platforms like Google, very, very different than social media platforms like Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. Most businesses probably should test both. We love Facebook ads. We also offer Google Ads Management as a service. So we love Google. We love Facebook. They perform differently. You are likely to attract different prospects through Google than you do through Facebook. They're going to be in a different state of mind if they come to you through Google versus Facebook. Neither is necessarily superior to the other. Lots of businesses find, hey, we prefer Facebook. It gets us less leads and they may take a little more time to nurture, but they tend to be a lot more qualified. And then other businesses are like, especially if you're just in a volume business where you just need a lot of clients, Google can work really well.
Yeah.
So neither one is better than the other. You just need to understand the differences. And, the whole point of this podcast is to help you, our listeners think about think about marketing strategically. So just understand they're two very different tools in your marketing tool chest. Daniel, anything to add?
Yep.
Final thoughts before we wrap up here?
Two different tools, two different strategies. So just understanding the difference between those strategies and then knowing what you're getting into whenever you decide to do that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for being here, Daniel. Thank you all for joining us. We will see you next week on the Automatic Marketing Show.